Now, before we do the beer, you guessed it. We have another James Lindsay update because James Lindsay, for some reason, he is completely incapable of actually intellectually engaging with any of the arguments that I'm making. Instead, James's head injury is acting up and he's descending into the land of retardia on Twitter. And he just keeps tweeting about me. And for some reason, instead of actually engaging with the intellectual criticisms that I'm doing of his work, which are very, very clear, queer theory is not a Gnostic sex cult. Queer theory is an attack on capitalism via trying to abolish the gender binary because they believe that capitalism created the gender binary, put men in the workplace, women in the home, doing the unpaid labor of raising the next generation of proletarian workers. Queer theory is also an attack on the nuclear family because they believe the nuclear family, via social reproduction theory, is the literal production mechanism of capitalism. This is all documented. I have like hundreds of clips at this point that says that specifically that is what the left believes. The left is not a Gnostic sex cult. James has descended into lunacy by writing an entire book calling queer theory a Gnostic sex cult when it is not. And we're doing the hard work of pointing this out to James and his followers because I would actually like people to be prepared for what they're up against. And James is not doing that. James is like the Pied Piper, leading them right off the goddamn cliff. So James doesn't like this. And James keeps elevating troll accounts. So James saw fit yesterday to tweet this troll account about me. They only had 7 followers at the time. Now, even this troll account has gotten tens of thousands of views because of James Lindsay. And people are so interested in what this troll account has to say that it went from 7 followers to 15 followers. Well done, James. Well done. I mean, I just don't know how you're doing it, bro. I don't, all that promotion of this troll account and they only have 15 followers. I mean, really, that's definitely a credible source of information, James. But so we saw this yesterday as I was ending the stream. I did a video on it. If you guys want to see because I saw this live on a stream yesterday, someone came into my chat and was like, James Lindsay posted a video about you. And literally it was right as I was ending the stream. So I posted a clip of that today. And basically the reaction is James is having a meltdown. This is unhinged. But then James posted about me again today. Now, for those of you who are keeping track, this is now 2 weeks of James Lindsay just posting troll content about me. James Lindsay has said on more than one occasion now that I have borderline personality disorder, which I provably do not have. So James, that's kind of defamation, bro. And if you want to keep insinuating that I have a personality disorder that I don't have out to your 500,000 followers on Twitter, if I experience any negative repercussions for you lying to 500,000 people based on a medical diagnosis that you are not qualified to make, then we'll just see what happens, bro. But for right now, James Lindsay has more than once said that I have borderline personality disorder out to his audience. He has said that I am part of a Gnostic sex cult because I understand the law of attraction and A Course in Miracles. He posted a photoshopped image to make it look like no one is watching my live streams. He literally photoshopped it to say it had 1 view when it provably had over 1,000, at that time. And he just keeps going with this. And today he's posting Poetry Painter. And Poetry Painter has been stalking me literally for 4 years. And just as a reminder, this is Poetry Painter. This is what she looks like. This is her public. Oh, it looks like Jill has finally figured out. Has she finally figured out how to depublicize her photos? She has. Oh, Jill, you finally figured out how to make your photos private, Jill. Well, we still have these photos. This is the woman that James Lindsay is retweeting. She obviously never leaves her house because she spends all day, every day tweeting about me. And by the way, we're pretty sure that Jill is actually the person behind this account as well. And this account is making all sorts of videos about me. So we think it's the same person. But Basically this crazy lunatic believes it is her mission to warn the world that I'm a horrible person, and she takes these screenshots out of context and she makes like these crazy old lady memes. Like this is Jill Fugman's version of a meme. This is James Lindsay's fandom version of a meme. It's taking my tweets out of context and then twisting them with all caps to make them seem like I am a horrible, evil groomer and a member of a Gnostic sex cult, all because I dare question that James Lindsay says queer theory is a Gnostic sex cult, because obviously queer theory is not a Gnostic sex cult. It is an attack on capitalism via the gender binary and the nuclear family. But no, this is the answer that James Lindsay is giving to those criticisms. So he tweeted that today. I mean, I just don't know how I can compete with such intellectual greatness. That is what James Lindsay is offering us right now. Remember, he is a literal doctor, guys. James Lindsay. Oh, wait, I'm a literal doctor too. And actually, as it turns out, James, my doctorate is actually much more relevant to what is actually going on in the world, because I'm a doctor of psychology, specifically in industrial organizational psychology, which means I know how to analyze the psychology of group systems. You're a mathematician, James. We'll set that aside for now. But you know what James is really upset about? Do you know what James is actually really upset about? Let me show you. Who here remembers the Revolutionary Communists of America? Does anyone here in my audience know who the Revolutionary Communists of America are? Because this past week, for Socialism Saturday, I had a talk with two real live communists. And as it turns out, those communists that I literally had on my channel on Saturday were two of the leaders in the new Revolutionary Communists of America political party. And if we just scroll back just a little while, I actually spent a really long time. You can see here, I spent days, literally days, covering the Revolutionary Communists of America. This is back in. Let's see if it shows me the date. I don't know if it'll show me the date if I hover over it. This was back at the end of February, basically. Meet the new Communist Party, meet the new Revolutionary Communist Party, meet the new Revolutionary. Like we did several days worth of this. Even on Socialism Saturday, we even looked at the Canadian version of the Revolutionary Communists of America, because not only do the Revolutionary Communists of America exist in America, they also exist in Canada, the UK, Switzerland, Sweden, all sorts of countries. Reagan fact check. It was February 26th that I started covering the Revolutionary Communists of America. Now, I thought it was funny that yesterday, after I had been covering the Revolutionary Communists of America for literally months, James, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, discovers that the Revolutionary Communists of America are a thing. Well, I shouldn't say that. James knew about this at exactly the same time I knew about it. But he didn't take it seriously at the time, and I'm going to prove that. So yesterday, James posted the screenshot from the video for the Revolutionary Communists of America. Now, this is literally the same video that we watched and analyzed on February 26th. Okay? So I posted, "Let's all welcome James Lindsay to the party. He finally discovered the Revolutionary Communists America," which I started covering months ago. I even interviewed two of their members on my channel last Saturday. Better late than never, James. And then Reagan, shout out to Reagan. Reagan is the best. Reagan is like our fact checker extraordinaire. Reagan says, "This is true. On February 26th, James Lindsay was joking and called the new party the Revcoms. The Revcoms are not the same thing as the Revolutionary Communists of America. He did not take them seriously. Also on February 26th, Carlin did a deep dive into the very organized new Communist Party to inform us and later infiltrated a recruiting call. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We literally infiltrated one of their recruiting calls. I have that on my Substack. We literally infiltrated one of their recruiting calls. Hang on. Where was it? Where was it? It wasn't that long ago. We literally went undercover in one of their recruiting calls. And let me just show you Reagan's receipts. So on February 26, when the Revolutionary Communists of America launched, here was James's response. The Revcoms aren't new and are a weird splinter, but nonetheless. The Revcoms are a completely different group. The Revolutionary Communists of America have nothing to do with the Revcoms. The point I'm making is this, that maybe James Lindsay is promoting troll accounts on Twitter because to discredit my work, because he doesn't want people watching my work. Because if they watched my work, they would find out that I've been covering things that James Lindsay laughed off, that he didn't even bother to look into. I started covering this stuff months ago. I started showing people what this was months ago, before James even took it seriously. James dismissed this out of hand. James told, I promise you, James told Z Van Fleet to dismiss this. I know because of a DM conversation I had with Z Van Fleet, where Z Van Fleet said, Carlin, don't worry. That's not something we need to worry about. And I said, Z, that's not correct. But Z Van Fleet is in James Lindsay's back pocket. And I am positive that came from James. Because James hadn't bothered to look into it and didn't even know what it was. But my audience already knew, because I'd been covering this shit from the very beginning on February 26th. So I'm sure that James is feeling just a little awkward about the fact that, listen, James Lindsay was the top dog for a long, long time. We can all acknowledge that. There was a time when I was behind James. But that time has fucking passed. And now, provably, based on James's own actions, I would argue that I'm years ahead of James, but in this case, I am minimally months ahead of James. My audience will know what's going on months before James Lindsay even gets around to looking for it. So James can continue to cry his tears all he wants, but I'm going to give James something to cry about. I'll tell you what. Because I've been hemming and hawing about whether or not I'm going to go to AFPAC, mostly because I had a scheduling conflict and there's some other stuff going on. And so I was like, I don't know if I can make it work. But I know that James Lindsay hates the Groypers more than almost any other group. I know that Michael O'Fallon, who is the guy who writes the fat checks to James Lindsay for new discourses, he hates the Groypers more than almost any other group on the internet. So you know what? James Lindsay wants to cry on the internet about me almost every single day of his life while doing nothing productive to inform the public, because James Lindsay's just retweeting conspiracy theory nonsense and saying, don't hire college graduates right now. He's not actually informing the public of what's happening. If James Lindsay wants something to cry about, I will give you something to cry about, mother effer. I'm going to AFPAC. James, you can eat a dick. My work is far superior to yours. You know my work is far superior to yours. And for everyone else who might question it, I would recommend you head over to my Twitter, which is it's Dr. Carlin B on Twitter or X. And right at the top, you can even see a testimonial from someone else who believes that my work is far superior to James. I watched James a long time ago, but what he was teaching didn't make any sense in what we were actually seeing inside schools. Your work has always been clear with direct connections to the actual people who are influential in the socialist march forward. James is leading people down a hellhole of lies, and he is going to defend it to the detriment of all the families and children who depend on knowing the truth. Thank you, Carlin. Hopefully, more people will soon start to see the truth you are shining a bright light on. Eat a dick, James. Crying isn't going to make your work better than mine, James. Crying is not an intellectual argument, James. My audience knows more about what's going on the left than your audience can ever dare dream, as they're seething and coping on Twitter all day long because they're not smart enough to follow my content, James. That's all.